Today's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals will come to order. We will begin with the roll call. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Brown?
Present.
Mr. Repass? Mr. Lloyd? Mr. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Elliott?
Present.
Ms. Garrett?
Present.
Ms. Longmire?
Present.
Mr. Huff?
Present.
All right, and now if you'll please stand and join with the Pledge of Allegiance. And before we go any further, we have two of us that need to be sworn in. We have a new member who is John Elliott, who is representing 6th District, and I'll be starting my second term for 8th District. Okay, so you'll need to come over here.
So the judge's secretary's here, the judge's robe is here, but the judge is not here, so. He's supposed to be coming into the building right now, so we'll get started.
When you hear us say, "Here comes the judge," you'll know it's okay.
The thing is, I can do it, but as a former judge and as a current judge, notice I'm the municipal judge for the city of Knox.
Oh, how cool.
I do the traffic also.
I know who
You go to the front of the line.
I know who to call if I do get one. Yeah. As soon as I say it, I'll get one, but I haven't had one in about 10 years.
Their previous judge had been their traffic judge or municipal judge since 1975. And so he finally retired, and they kind of put out a call for his to apply, and I thought, what the heck, I'll apply. And I got the job. So I go down there every Tuesday afternoon, and I hold traffic court. It starts at 3, it's supposed to go till 5, but like yesterday I was done at 3:30. It's really. No, you get a lot of people that just don't show up, and they get their license and if they don't show up, or don't pay off, the ticket to do it. But and then it's just a matter of you've been charged with this. How do you plead? Guilty? Okay, go see the clerk. Boom. It's very quick.
Does that include DUIs?
I don't do DUIs. The DUIs are handled by Sessions Court. This is just tickets, occasionally zonings. They tell me I haven't had one yet, but just plain failure to have registration. It's nothing, but it's fun to go in and do whatever it's necessary to do. So. I was going to say, I thought I recognized that.
The last ticket I got, I was coming from Tri-Cities, midnight, and I did back in Fox City on Broadway, and got pulled over, and I was like, what the heck? I've been done. And I had a headlight on. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know it, because when I turned the car on,
Chancellor Haggard. Whether you're up front, whatever you like to do. He took my place. I get here at 7 o'clock. I usually get up no later than 5. Sometimes, most days 4:30. I'm sorry. Let's do the elections. And then you can read through that thing or not. That's up to you.
Well, we always do, so.
I don't think so.
Thank you, Judge. That's a good question. Well, right there. There you go. All right, our first order of business before we actually start the hearing about the variances is to elect a new chair and vice chair. Our former chair, Terry Kerr, was term limited, so we will need to elect a new chair and vice chair. So I guess the first thing would be to ask for nominations for chair. Yes, sir.
I nominate for chair, Mr. Paul Huff.
I'll second that nomination.
All right, we have a nomination of Chair Paul Huff. Any others? If not, let's vote, please. Chair Paul Huff. All in favor, a voice vote I think would be fine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Paul, your chair.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Take your name and come over here, sir. Get your name. Okay. Come here. Well, I'll give you my cheat sheet.
Okay, that's all I need.
So you will need to go ahead and get your vice president. And then read that part out of it. Introduce yourself at your log your thing. Ask for introductions for others. And then this is the new voting procedure where,
Okay.
and then, okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I could.
And I'll tell you, whoever's vice chair you want for the 15, 10, 15 minutes.
A lot of excavation to do it. I got time to do it.
I
It's ready made, but my cows have already kind of turned it into a small farm. But I'd have to do some more excavation, but I just have to decide if I want to spend money on it.
Okay, our next order of business is to elect a vice chair, and I'll take nominations.
I would like to nominate Mr. Curtis Brown.
I'll second that motion. Voice vote will suffice for that, and all in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Okay, this is the Board of Zoning Appeals, and members are volunteers from each commission district who do not receive compensation for their work on the board or training they attend. As a quasi-judicial body, we avoid ex parte conversations and conduct our business in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. My name is Paul Huff, I'm the chairman, and this is Curtis Brown to my right, vice chairman. And to my further right is our law director, Mr. Mike Moyers. We have additional folks in attendance. We have anybody from codes? Anybody from MPC?
I'm Kelly Vaughn from Knox County Codes. With me is Bart Roundtree and Kim Jarnigan. From Knox Planning, we have Mike Reynolds.
Welcome. Our voting procedure, we've changed it, and I got to make sure I get it right. Our voting procedure requires a majority of positive votes for a motion to be approved, regardless of the number of board members who are present at the time of the vote. Today, there are 6 members present.
You're talking about the voting procedure? We've changed that rule, so it's just a majority of those who are present and voting now.
Correct. Let me correct that. It requires a majority of the members that are present and voting. So today it would require 4 votes positive to carry a motion. Excuse me. Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to grant variances and hear other matters by the Tennessee Code and the Knox County Zoning Ordinance. Specifically, these laws prescribe parameters required to grant a variance. The burden of proving the grounds for a variance request rests on the applicant. For each matter, the clerk will read the request into the record. I will then ask if the applicant is present, and then if there are opposition to other speakers who wish to be present. Wish to present, excuse me. You don't have to come forward at this time. Once we determine the speakers for the item, we will call on governmental agencies such as Knox County Codes, Planning, or Engineering to make statements regarding the facts pertinent to the property and background of the request. Board members may ask questions of the governmental agencies once they have made their statements. Then I will call on the applicant to come forward and state their name and address for the record and present their evidence and reasoning supporting the granting of a variance. If there is no opposition, the applicant has 10 minutes to present their case. If there is opposition, the applicant and the opposition each have up to 15 minutes. After the applicant's presentation, board members may ask questions of the applicant. Then I will call for opposition or other parties who have up to 15 minutes to speak. This 15 minutes applies to all parties, so if there are multiple parties that wish to speak, please determine how you're going to divide your time beforehand. After the opponents speak, the board members may ask questions of the opponents. Finally, there will be a discussion of the case by the board, during which time commissioners may ask further questions of parties that have already testified. Then the board will make any determination it deems necessary. Our bylaws allow the applicants at the initial hearing on the matter to request a deferral of 30 or 60 days without prejudice. In the event of a deferral of an application or failure to appear, Any opponents may be heard on the record at a meeting where the application they oppose appears on the agenda. Do we have anybody present that wishes to speak in either as an applicant or as opposition? If we do, please, we need to swear in, and also the folks from codes. If you plan to testify, please stand up and be sworn in.
All right, you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
No.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we hear the last two cases together as one case, since it's the same applicants and the same.
I second that.
All those in favor of combining the last two items on the agenda into one, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. It's been deferred, so it'll be.
Are we gonna do that next month?
I don't know. I guess when we get down to it, we'll talk about it. There is one item on the agenda that is being deferred. Is there any opposition to that item that anyone would like to speak to today? 5A.
It's withdrawn.
Withdrawn, okay. You can disregard that. Okay. I'll ask the clerk to read the first item on the agenda.
First item is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
I move we approve the meetings from last meeting on September 27th.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So let's go with request 4A.
4A is a request of Michael Cullum for waiver of front yard setback from 50 feet to 35 feet. Property is located at 8711 Stanley Road, CLT map 011, parcel ID 133. Property is zoned AG in the 8th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Please come forward and state your name, address, and give a reason for the application for the variance. Technology. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't come in this time. They came in last time. Mhm.
Thank you. Michael Cullum, 8711 Stanley Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37938. I'm requesting a variance from 50 feet from the front of the property to 35 feet. My plan is to build a steel building with dimensions 40 feet long by 24 wide. There is a creek that runs through the back third of my property. And the 50-foot variance would put the building in the concrete in close proximity to that creek, and there's also some groundwater that comes up. And in speaking with the contractor, they feel that the ground would be a little too wet, and so moving it within that 35-foot variance eliminates that. So that's my request.
Anyone have any questions of the applicant? Is there any opposition to this request?
Excuse me, since this is in my district and I've looked at the property and understand your problem, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance, a waiver of a front yard setback from 50 feet to 35 feet due to the proximity of the creek and the amount of groundwater around the creek.
I second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Cullen.
Thank you very much.
Next one.
Next item on the agenda.
Right. 4B is a request of Darshan and Sajal Patel for a waiver of side yard setback from 8 feet to 5 feet. The property is located at 10613 Plum Creek Drive, CLT map 131, Group JA, parcel 01802. Property is zoned RA. This is in the 5th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Please step forward, give us your name, address, and the reason for your request.
Yeah.
Darshan Patel, address is 10613 Plum Creek Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922.
And your reasoning, sir?
Just to make the floor plan fit in that lot, because there's a creek in the back and the 50-foot buffer that I have to leave, plus there's another bushes and trees that I don't want to touch, or I can't. So the floor plan that I have is, that's what I'm required to have, is 5 feet on the side instead of 8.
Is this house already built, or is it something you plan to build?
Plan on building.
I need to remind you of the criteria for granting a variance, either a steep lot, narrow lot, shallow lot, or some other unusual circumstance that would prevent you from complying with the setback requirements. Based on what I see in the application, it just looks like you want to build a house too big to fit on the lot. Can you explain why you can't build a house that's narrower, or maybe 2 stories, or something else that would fit within the setbacks?
I believe the 2 feet variance, it increases, 2-story, house for that. But this is only going to be 1 story, so, and I was told it's 8 foot that's required.
Okay.
So that's why I'm applying for a variance.
Can you not
for 5 foot.
reconfigure the floor plan to fit on this lot?
The architect has tried, but then it narrows the space inside the house. It's,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that the lot is narrower at the front and then widens toward the back, is that
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the variance would only apply toward the front where it's narrower?
Pretty much, yeah.
And that is a condition for a
Right.
variance, is a narrow lot right
Mhm.
there.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this? Please, I'm sorry, before we go there, does anybody else have any other questions or comments for this applicant?
Yes, Mr. Mattel, the middle part of your drawing, that's a garage and a driveway? Is that correct?
Right.
Are there any way of being able to reduce the size of the garage and that driveway to where you could bring in the side amount?
I mean, it's doable, but, you know, the main reason is the floor plan that is,
I
up,
understand,
so-
but I'm just trying to figure out a way of being able, for you to be able to build your home and still be able to fit it in the lot with the designated 8 feet instead of 5 feet.
I've tried with the architect, see if that's even possible, but then it narrows the whole footprint.
Right.
And, you know, but since we're only needing that in the front, as we go back, the lot gets wider, so it's gonna have more than 8 feet.
Have you considered taking the house and moving it a little further back?
Yes, but I don't have space in the back with the creek and the buffer and
Well, it
some of the
looks like on the
plantation that's
drawing-
back there.
It looks like on the drawing that we have, the creek is pretty much all the way back toward the property line.
There's some plantation that's even further, so that's why I had to fit it in the middle, basically, from the front and the back.
Well, on your drawing, it's showing 90 feet and 7 inches from the house to the back of, I don't know if that's the property line or the woods. That 90 feet,
There's quite a bit of woods back there where you see on that other aerial map, on the other.
Yeah, the 90 feet's from the property line.
okay, let's hear opposition.
I think it's important at this juncture that we understand why we need setbacks on the side yards. And Code, you can explain if I've made this wrong. But one is for access for emergency vehicles to the backside of the house, fire trucks, that sort of thing. And the other is for fire protection of your neighbors, so that fire does not jump the property line and involve your neighbor's property. That's why we have 8 feet for single-story houses, and it goes up to, I'm not sure what it is for 2-story houses, but it increases. And that to me is not just an impact to your property, but it's an impact to your neighbor's property as well. So I really think you need to get your architect to sharpen his pencil, see if he can't figure out how to narrow that house plan down. Kelly?
Yeah, actually, a point of clarification, the building code would require 5 feet off the property line. The 8 feet is actually from the zoning code and would not come into play with the building code for fire separation distance. 5 feet would be the limit on that.
So does he not need a variance? He's
No, I'm just saying that nothing in the building code would move him to 8 feet. The building code would only move him to 5 feet. The zoning code is what requires him to be at 8 feet. So the building code wouldn't come into play on that.
okay. I guess we can listen to the opposition now. Please come, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got one.
Yeah, there's one. Please come forward and state your name, address, and give us your testimony.
Hello, Paul Simmons, 232 Pat Road, 37922 in the same subdivision. I'm here representing the 50 people in direct sight of that lot, as well as the 100-plus people in the neighborhood who couldn't be here today. We've had a lot of issues with this lot in the past, and I'm just here to make sure that the riparian zone is protected. We've had people cut those trees down, previous property owners. We want to make sure that barrier to the sound noise from Parkside persists, and then that will not be affected. We are glad that it's going to be a single dwelling home. We've had attempts to put multiple story condos there or some industrial work there. So if anything is going to go on that lot, we would prefer it to be a house. And given that the zoning adjustment is for from 8 to 5 feet down on the side, to bring it forward and not impact the foliage in the riparian zone, where we as a neighborhood are okay with that. We're glad to have a family house there as opposed to anything else. We would prefer the tree not be cut down, but that's their prerogative. So we really don't have opposition. It's just maintaining the integrity of the riparian zone is our major concern, so that that is not taken down or affected. Any questions for me?
So you all aren't in opposition against this? You're just saying you just want everything to remain, all the variances and all the checkpoints, everything to be the way it's supposed to be?
Yes, we were here for clarification because we did not get clarity on that. And before the meeting, I got some clarity onto what's going on with this. As far as the footprint, it's just the side, not the front, and not affecting the riparian. If all that stays in place, we are not opposed. We've had our clarification.
Anybody else? Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Longmire.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance to reduce the side setback from 8 feet to 3 feet, keeping in mind that this would protect the trees and bushes that are at the back of the property and allow the owner to have best use of his property.
The reduction's actually from 8 feet to 5 feet.
8 to 5, I'm sorry, 8 to 5.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
4C is a request of Michael Reardon and Mike Mency for waiver of front yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. The property is located at 9235 Sway Branch Lane, CLT map 144, group NG, parcel ID 010. Property is zoned PR, and this is in the 4th Commission District.
It's actually Michael Menser, just for the record. It's R.
Refresh my memory, Ms. Longmire. Did we vote to
Yes.
Yes, correct.
4C and 4D.
4C and 4D.
And then 4D is also a request of Michael Reardon and Mike Menser for waiver of front yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. The property is located at 9243 Sway Branch Lane, CLT map 144, group NG, parcel 009. Property is zoned PR, also in the 4th Commission District.
The applicant is present. Please state your name and address and give us the reason for your request.
Sure. Michael Reardon, 1630 Single Tree Lane, Knoxville, 37922. I actually live in the neighborhood. And we bought 2 lots in the neighborhood, and the setbacks were to the point where we were not going to be able to build a house that would be commensurate with the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. Basically, between 26 and 2,800 square feet is what they are. So as you go to the back of the lot, it goes steadily up. And we're going to have to dig that out and put a retaining wall in the back. There's one to the, as you're looking at the property, there is a retaining wall on the left-hand side, not on the right-hand side, because the property kind of, on the right-hand side, the property kind of just goes out a little bit more for that house. So our idea was to decrease the setback, still leaving room for a driveway in the front, and being able to build a house that would be, to keep the value of the houses in the neighborhood. And I think I don't know how much of the stuff I brought you guys have copies of. Okay, so that was basically to explain what we're trying to do there. That's basically it. Although when I looked at the setbacks, and I'm not, an expert on this, but when I looked at the setbacks to the house on the right and the left, they were much less than when we had you guys come out and show us where the setbacks were. Or we actually had it surveyed where the setbacks are. And I took pictures, I don't know if you can see them, but I took a picture of where the setback was and where the other house is. Okay, all right. So it doesn't really, all we're really asking for is basically what we have on either side already. I don't know what kind of setbacks they got. It was built 17 years ago, the houses on either side. I hope that makes sense.
So if I might paraphrase what you just said, you have an issue with a steep lot that,
Yeah, it's very steep in the back. But we are going to dig some of that out. It's just to be able to make enough room to build the house that I'm kind of showing there, we would need a little room on the front. So that's what I was. Make sense?
yes. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
And I've got one for Kelly. Kelly, you said this is the community where the majority of the houses in that community were already at a setback?
That's correct. All along this road, the houses are already closer than 20 feet to the street, or to the front property line.
Do we have any opposition? No?
I'd like to make a motion.
Chair recognizes Ms. Garrett.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 4C and 4D at 9235 Sway Branch Lane and 9243 Sway Branch Lane due to the, from the setback from 20 feet to 10 feet due to the topographical issues in the back of the properties.
I second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody say, any vote against, please say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Do I need to stay for any reason? All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.
We had one last item on the agenda that is under deferred. It was actually withdrawn. That was the 5A. And we've already elected officers, so that has been done.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment? This meeting of the BZA is adjourned.